What is up, people? It is me, Monster58, and welcome back to another video review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy United Generation Selects Stand United Autobot 5-pack. Now, this is a 5-pack that's very hotly, contested. Everybody wants this pack because of the figures that it includes, and essentially what they are doing is re-releasing 4 figures that we've gotten before. So we're getting Studio Series 86 Jazz, Earthrise, Sunstreaker, Earthrise Trailbreaker, Earthrise Wheeljack, as well as a new mold, or a repaint retool of Detrius, which essentially is Earth Mode Hound. And so, because we never got an Earth Mode Hound. And so, taking a look at the box here, sorry if you can see, the edges of my, review station. This is a pretty long box. It's not actually tall, it's just very long. So you can see, you have each of the Autobots there. You got Jazz, Sunstreaker, Trailbreaker, Wheeljack, and Hound, this is the order that we will be talking about them in today. You have the Legacy United stuff there with the Autobot logo. You do have more, you have more Legacy United logos there. Got some Autobot Stand United 5-pack. You got some more nice artwork here on the side. It's kind of hard to see. It's hard for me to make this easy to see, but you can see some more nice artwork of Wheeljack and Hound right there. And nothing really on the back of the box. No product shots or anything. Very much like a Generation Selects normal box that you would see. And so, without further ado, I think that is really about it for the box. And so, alrighty folks, and for the first one up, like I told you, we're going to go in the order as they were on the box from left to right. So we're going to start off with Jazz here. As you can see, the major differences that you'll notice with the Studio Series 86 Jazz that's re-released here is you're going to see that these windows are painted instead of transparent. The blue is a bit darker as well. You also get a smaller stripe and a darker red, I believe. I'll have to compare. I think it is a darker red. In addition to that, you also have the painted back window here as well. You do also have light gray plastic instead of the silver, and in addition to that, you also get these little stripes here on the rear fenders, which is very accurate to the original. Looking at this, you also get these black parts on the wing that would be like the sides of the wing, right? So really nice stuff. And the 14 is pretty much the same. Everything else is pretty much the same. Also, you do have a removed silver. This used to be silver on the SS86 version. Now it's just pure white. But the main goal of this pack is to be more cartoon accurate. And with this version of Jazz, I will say that it is more cartoon accurate. And so what I'm going to do here is we are going to set the new Stand United 5-pack Jazz off to the side here, and we will bring in the original. And so taking a look at the original, you can see the red is different there. It's darker here. It's more accurate. In addition to that, there's no white outline on the Autobot logo as well. You can also see, you can really see it here. Let's remove the guns, which I believe are not different at all if we take a look at them. Yeah, they're pretty much exactly the same, except for actually this peg here is white instead. This peg is silver, but yeah, you can. That's how I guess you can tell the difference. But removing the guns, you can see the stripe is bigger on the old version. Also, all the transparent. Again, like I said, you can see that this is not black. This is black now. You can see the lack of silver, so there's silver here, but not here. In addition to that, you can see the fenders on the back. There are no stripes here. There are there. You can also see on the back here the bottoms of the feet are different, and then it's the silver versus the gray. In addition, the blue, you can see that which will become the crotch piece, is also lighter. So when it comes to this Jazz, I will say it is more cartoon accurate. And so obviously the one comparison that we're all going to want to see is how they look in their robot modes, and so I will do that. Alrighty folks, here we have both of these Jazzes in their robot modes, and I gotta say, at a first glance, it is pretty hard to tell what the major differences are, but I'll go ahead and point them out for you. Like I said, these two parts are different because this is all white, this is silver. You can also see that the red and the Autobot logos are also different on both of them. You can also see on the face, when you look closely, you have silver here for the original, and you have the more flat, glossy color. Same here for the legs, you can see them, like I told you can see really in the legs, and also in this abdomen area, you can see this is silver on the original, this is that more flat gray color. And at the end of the day, this is something that I will say about Jazz out of this pack, and I'll actually also probably, you'll hear me say the same thing about mainly Trailbreaker as well as Wheeljack, but we'll talk about it here, is essentially, honestly, either or is really, really good. I actually really like both of these figures in terms of how they represent the character. However, I will say this. If you do want the absolute cartoon accuracy, this is the one to pick up. This is absolutely the more accurate one to the original animation that we saw in the 80s when the cartoon was still running, or if you rewatch the episodes. This is clearly the more animation accurate one, but I do understand the sentiment of liking the silver here and the silver here, the silver for the face. It is a nice touch and sort of brings it up to like a more modernized interpretation of what all those gray bits on the Transformers were. They would more than likely be a silvery metallic color if you were at actually, if these guys were real, right? And so it is nice to have that. But what I will say is that I do think that this is a strict improvement over this one. And the reason I say that is because the joints feel much better on this new one. They're actually tighter. In addition to that, this Jazz in particular, the 86 one, I know is known for having these knee tabs not tab in very well. And what I will say is that when I'm comparing both of these, the knee joints on this one are not only tighter, but I feel like the tabs are also just a little bit deeper, or the hole is a bit deeper as well to tab them into, because these stay in place much, much better than this guy's. And so at the end of the day, when it comes to that, I really do think that as a figure, I do think that this is a strict improvement because of the functionality. All of the joints feel better, they feel tighter, they feel smooth. They're not so tight to where you think you're going to break them, but they're tighter, smoother. The pegs in the knees, in particular for Jazz, are very, very nice. And so overall, I do prefer this one, especially because I do like the cartoon accuracy. But in terms of improvements, like in terms of like whether I would tell you to get either or, honestly, I wouldn't necessarily fault you for getting either or of these two, because they are really, really close. There's only, so many minor changes to this Jazz besides the functionality of it in terms of the looks, right, that are just, it's up to taste, right? I personally think that when it comes to the looks, it's up to taste, but in terms of functionality, this is a strict improvement. So, getting into the articulation, we'll do the articulation. Remember, both of these have the same, but we'll do articulation for the new one. So this head is on the ball joint, so you can look a bit up and down. You do have a full 360 here at the shoulder. You do have a 90-degree bend at the elbow, upper a bicep rotation, and the wrists do not rotate, sadly. You do have a hollow space there, which kind of sucks, but what are you going to do? You do have full waist, but it is blocked off a bit by the backpack, so you're going to have to rotate it like this. And then also forward, back, more than 90 at the knee. Actually, let me plug. There we go. That's better. Well, it still gets it's not like perfect, but I think it's better than the original. And then the joints feel tighter in the knee, and then you have an upper thigh rotation, and then you do have ankle rocker pivot. This guy has always had really solid articulation. This is by far the best mainline Jazz figure we've gotten. The other thing I will say about this that I do much prefer, when I also say that this is also sort of an improvement over the 86 one, is the advent of the painted windshields. I like them a lot more than the transparent ones. Now, when you look at them, I think that they're just strictly painted. Yeah, I believe they're strictly painted. You can see that they're strictly painted, and they're not like a transparent plastic that's been painted over. They are strictly painted, and that's just way better for longevity. So if you're honestly, I still would say that this is overall the new Stand United one is the better Jazz. But again, the looks is up for, personal preference, right? So either or for looks works, but overall as an improvement, this is by far the better one, so I really do like it. And so let's move on to the next one. Alrighty, folks, next in line is Sunstreaker. When it comes to Sunstreaker, I'm just going to tell you this right now. I think this is just a straight-up improvement, and it's just better in pretty much every conceivable way in comparison to the original Earthrise one. You can see already the much darker, more accurate color for the Countach, as we saw in the animation. The nice painted windshields. You have two Autobot logos, one on the hood, one on the top. This is extremely accurate to the original. You also finally get a gun for Sunstreaker, which is really, really nice. Now, I'm not sure if this is accurate. You'll probably see something on screen whether it is to the animation, but regardless, it's really nice. You do also just have none of the yellows are mismatched anymore. As a lot of people knew with the original Earthrise one, a lot of the yellows on the original were mismatched. You can see it with the chest mainly in comparison to the doors on the original. And so when it comes to this one, it's really nice. Also, I like the silver instead of the yellow, because even though it's not a wing, like of the full wing like it was in the animation. It's still more accurate because guess what? Sunstreaker did have a wing on the Countach and it happened to be silver in the animation. And so this looks just infinitely better, and I think that the functionality is also infinitely better. You can also see, just similar to Jazz, a lot of the times they have been replacing all of the silver bits or any of the chromey bits for the more or less with the like this flatter colors, especially you'll see it in the face for Sunstreaker. But yeah, here's the original, and so like I did for Jazz, we're going to set the new Stand United one off to the side there. And here he is with the original. As you can see, there's such a stark contrast, and like I told you, it's kind of hard to see on camera, but you can see the differences in yellows. Actually, I was wrong with the chest plate. Sorry about that. But it's the back and this. You can see it right there. It's actually much easier for me to see on camera. The major differences in the yellows there, and then this is yellow as well. This yellow is completely different to this yellow for the arms and stuff. So overall, this is just infinitely better, and plus it'll last longer because it's not transparent plastic like on the original. You can also see there's much more accurate striping here on the bumper in comparison to the original. There's no Autobot logo here. There is one here. Taking a look at the other ones, you can see that this is just painted differently. And again, this guy comes with a gun. This guy didn't even come with a gun. As you can see, this black is more replaced with this darker gray color, which is more accurate to the original animation. And same thing with the tires. You can see the tires are, instead of black, they are that like darker gray. You can see that there. You can see that when you're comparing it like this, right? So when it comes to the vehicle modes, the new Stand United one is clearly the better one, so let's compare them in their robot modes. Alrighty folks, here we have both of the Sunstreakers in the robot mode, or the Earthrise Sunstreaker, and the new, Stand United one versus the original Earthrise one. You can see the left one is just infinitely better in my opinion. The color is just so much more accurate to the animation. He looks fantastic. The major differences, like I said, you can see this still carry over from the vehicle mode to the robot mode. You can see the differences in the colors. Mainly, you can see the striping on the feet, the colors on the whole body. You can also see the differences here. You can see the molding. You can see this is all molded different. Oh, well, not molded. It is the colors are painted differently here comparison to here on the fronts of the legs, on the arms here as well. You can see the differences in the gray. You can see the silver here versus just the black and the yellow here, the dark gray as well. The painted windshields, the Autobot logos are also different. This is a bit of a brighter red compared to this one. In addition, you can see more throughout here. I mean, you can just see in general. The other thing you can see is in the face. So if we look at the original Earthrise face, you can see that that's all silver. When you look at the new Stand United one, that is like that flat gray color, very similar to what they did with Jazz. But also very similar to how Jazz is, this figure feels much more tight with the joints. It feels smooth, well, not necessarily smoother, it just feels like it'll last longer. Definitely when it came to releasing this pack, I'll say this at the end, they definitely improved all these figures when it came to the joints and how tight they were, how good they feel, and everything like that. And that is no exception here with Sunstreaker. Sunstreaker feels much better than the original one. All the joints on this guy are much tighter than this one, and that's really, really amazing. So getting into the articulation, we'll set the original Earthrise one off to the side. You can do you do have a ball joint at the head, so you can look up and down a little bit. You do have a full 360 as per usual. Full 360 here at the shoulder. You also have a bicep rotation 90 degrees at the elbow. No wrist articulation, unfortunately, but it's a deluxe. You do get full waist, which is really nice. Kick forward, you can kick back, you can 90-degree bend at the knee, upper thigh rotation, and then you do have crazy ankle rocker pivot. Like I said, with Jazz, Sunstreaker also has really, really good articulation, and that is no different here. But yeah, when you're comparing the two of them, definitely this Sunstreaker is just infinitely better overall in comparison to this one, and a straight-up improvement. If I were to say to get one of these two, definitely get this one over this one. This is just more accurate. Feels tighter to joints. He even has a gun. This guy doesn't come with the gun. So really, really good stuff. Honestly, fantastic. And this is the Sunstreaker I will be using in my display. Next, we got the Chunky Boy. Welcome to Trailbreaker. Now, there was a lot of contention, including myself. I really didn't think that I would prefer this dark gray color scheme in comparison to the original black. But when you do look at the animation model, and when you look at the animation in general, the cartoon, he is definitely more akin to a dark gray rather than a black color. Now, I'm sure that they intended for it to be black. I wouldn't be surprised, right? Like for his color to actually be just a flat black black color, but when you compare it to the actual animation, it does look more gray than black, right? So, you know, their intention may not have been to make him dark gray, but it certainly came across that way on screen. And so this is here to obviously replicate that. So this Trailbreaker looks great. You can see the painted windshields. You can see the Autobot logo right here. The darker gray obviously is a big one. You also have the painted other windows and everything like that. I believe he is a Toyota, so you do have the Toyota colors right here, which is really nice, very accurate. It should be lower, but they couldn't really fit it with the way that they did this mold, so I'm okay with that. You can also see the nice flat gray here, which is again very similar to Jazz and Sunstreaker. You do have the silver, the light gray here. So overall, really, really nice. The paint for that. You have the red taillights as well. Overall, really, really fantastic when it came to this truck mode. And so obviously he's a mold mate with a hoist, always has been. So we're going to do the comparison. So we're going to set this guy off to the side here. And here is the original. When it comes to the original, like I said, I didn't think I would prefer this one, but I actually do prefer this one. When it comes to both of these, again, I think it's similar to Jazz, where I think it's personal preference, actually. You'll see this in the robot mode, but again, this is clearly the more accurate one to the animation, but this is also really, really good. Like, I can't deny that it's just a good mold, in my opinion. The only issue I have with it is the arm stuff when you get into the robot mode, but other than that, this is a really solid mold. And either or, I think, works. You can also see the molded and the painted differences with the his gun here, so you can see this is black and silver, and then you can see this is that gray color has like the more flat gray stuff, so you can see the differences there. And so to show you guys more of the differences, what we'll do here is you can see the taillights here. The red is a bit brighter on this one. There's no paint obviously here, even in these windshields. You can see the Toyota color logos. There's a ton of them on the original. There's not a ton of them here. It's just the one like it is in the animation. You can see the Autobot logo is also different. You can see it has the white outline here. It doesn't have it here. You can also see in the tires, this is more of a darker gray rather than the black. The silver still remains the same. But yeah, you can see it also has four-wheel drive here. This doesn't have four-wheel drive. Sure, you do technically sacrifice less detail in this new one for more cartoon accuracy, but again, I think it's all personal preference, or like many people with this pack, I didn't even mention this at the beginning, I should have, who weren't able to get the original Earthrise stuff, or even the Series 86 Jazz, and don't want to pay, you know, the aftermarket for them. So, enough about me talking about the vehicle modes. We'll get these guys from their vehicle modes and turn them into their robot modes. Alrighty folks, here we have both of the Trailbreakers in the robot modes, and I gotta say, like I told you guys, this is clearly, like I said, the more cartoon accurate one, although I prefer how the gun looks on this one. I think this looks better in the all black. I wish this was the all gray, but maybe that's more accurate. I can't remember how that looked for Trailbreaker, but I'll see if I can throw an image on screen of his gun, right, that he had in the show. But you can see, let's take a look at the differences. Obviously, the windshields are different. You can see the blue even on the top of the shoulders is different. The red's different. The face is obviously, the whole body is that different color. You can see on the shins and everything. This is silver on the original Earthrise one. This is that flat gray color. Again, that's more cartoon accurate. Now, I'm going to lean more towards Jazz, like I said with Jazz on this one. I think Sunstreaker is a straight-up improvement. I also think when it comes to at least everything, Jazz, in my opinion, is majorly an improvement in the functionality, and same thing here with Trailbreaker. I think in the functionality department, he is much better as a figure. The not painted, the not transparent windshields, you know, having that's really, really nice for longevity. A lot of people don't have to worry about having being cracked. The cartoon accuracy is better there, and in addition, the joints are also really, really solid on this one. They're better than the original, very similar to Jazz and Sunstreaker. They just feel tighter, they'll last longer, they just feel better all around, and I'm really happy with that. However, like I said with Jazz, I actually do not really blame you if you do prefer this one, because this one does have, in my opinion, a little bit of a better color overall, and I do like that the Autobot logo is outlined, because it's actually kind of hard to see on the new one. But this is, like I said, this is more accurate, although I do think the paint on this is nice. Also, the silver is also very nice on the parts that they put the silver on, including on the front bumper. I didn't point that out, but the silver on the front bumper is also very nice on the original Earthrise one. But again, Out of these two, I still think that this is a functional improvement, and the cartoon accuracy is much better here. Also, if we're factoring in price, you are essentially getting all of these for retail, because this retails for about like $109. Sure, you're paying a little bit of a premium, but at the end of the day, it's better than maybe paying some extra money on the aftermarket for each individual figure, when you can get all 5 of them for relatively retail in one pack. So again, very similar to Jazz. I think you could choose either or of these, although this is functionally the better figure. It's the looks that really are, debatable which one you want, and personal preference, in my opinion. All right, let's get on Wheeljack. Alrighty, folks, here we have Wheeljack, and this is where I think that it's tough. Now, when it comes to the original animation, this is absolutely more accurate than the Earthrise one. By far, and like bar none, this is by far the more accurate version of Wheeljack when it comes to cartoon accuracy. But it's really boring. When you look at this, we can see that the painted windshield here is pretty nice. The 638 there, the silver rims as well. You can see that the tires as well. The striping is much more, it's much less on here. You can see the red with the Autobot logo also there. And it's this much brighter white color rather than the sort of like, it's a darker white color. You'll understand when we set these two side by side. I'm looking at both of this, so this is the same. You also don't get as much detail here. But this is where it's kind of like, man, this does look more accurate, but actually also you don't have the deco here on the wing. And he actually comes with a gun as well. But this is one of those situations where I'm sitting here like, man, was the original vehicle mode just better? And I honestly think it is from the Earthrise one. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to set this off to the side and we'll bring in the Earthrise one. Alrighty, folks, here's the Earthrise one, and you can see what I'm talking about. This one, you can see the color is a bit darker for the white here. It's more of a darker creamy color. This is like a more of a pure white color, which is, again, more accurate to the original. Also, one thing I do prefer is that this is painted and not transparent. This is transparent, obviously. Also, because of that, when you transform this thing, I'll tell you this right now, these come off really easy. These do not. Really, really nice there. But the Lancia Stratos rally car is more akin to this. This is what it actually looks like. I also have, if you guys are, Hot Wheels released a Boulevard as well as a 2-pack of the Stratos in the Wheeljack colors. And I have it, I just don't have it quite on me right now. But essentially, that is the accurate Stratos. Obviously, it's going to be a toy car, so it'll be much more accurate, but you get the idea. This is not boring. This is really cool. All this awesome deco work on this side is really, really cool, just for a simple, deluxe figure. Here, you can see it's boring, and I know it's more cartoon accurate, but I can't help but be like, damn, this is just way more interesting compared to this one, but you sacrifice what you have to sacrifice for cartoon accuracy, and so what we'll do is we'll compare them in their robot modes. Alrighty, folks, here we have both Wheeljacks in their robot modes, and as you can see, this is where the new one shines better. Obviously, he's a much cleaner robot mode, and then he's more accurate, right? This is more accurate. This is exactly how it is in the animation. Same thing here. This is different. This is not as accurate. This is all accurate down here in the legs. The color is much more accurate. Also, this is silver instead of this dark gunmetal. What you can also see here is that in the face, though, this is that nice silver. You can see that for all of the gray bits, and then this is that flat gray, very similar to how they've been doing it for these figures in general for this pack. Also, you can see that this is all black, this is all this gray. You can also see, I didn't point this out, this is the muffler bits. These are not painted, which I kind of wish they were, but at the end of the day, again, I guess more cartoon accuracy. And this is where this figure shines. In terms of joint quality, I do feel that this one is a bit better, not by much though. I still think that they relatively feel the same, but this is a bit better, especially when you consider those little windshield bits. This one I transformed when I was transforming it off screen. It just flew off into the abyss. I picked it up, but the fact is it flew off. This one didn't. The joints just feel a little bit smoother and tighter on this one in comparison to the original Earthrise one. That also may have come with age, but at the end of the day, this does feel better overall, and he actually comes with a gun as well, which is really nice to see. The only improvement I wish they ended up doing was actually improving the shoulder cannon to actually be accurate, because the missile on this is way too tiny. It still is very tiny, but other than that, in terms of robot mode, this is clearly, in my opinion, the better one of the two. However, it's that vehicle mode that gets me. This is the one figure out of the entire 5-pack that I can't really say would necessarily be better than the original. What I will say is, again, I think it's functionally better, but that vehicle mode is a real big difference when it comes to these two, and it's so different that it actually makes the original boring in comparison to the Earthrise one. It's personal preference. Whichever one you can get your hands on for a better price is, it's up to you. Personally, I will be using this new one in my display because I'm going to display him in robot mode and not as vehicle mode anyway. But this vehicle mode definitely blows this one out of the water. The new one is blown out of the water by the original's vehicle mode, but this one definitely blows it out of the water in terms of cartoon accuracy. Out of the 5, I think this is the worst improvements out of the 5, if you want to call them improvements, for cartoon accuracy. I think this is a case where adhering more to the cartoon did worse for the figure than I imagined that it would. So I hope you guys can understand where I'm coming from. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that in the comments below. But so, without further ado, time to get into the figure that everybody wants out of this pack, and that is Hound. Alrighty, folks, here we have Hound in his Willys Jeep mode, the accurate one that we've all been waiting for. And this is what I'm going to say before we even get into this. When it comes to this mode, I am really sad that we did not get the buzzworthy one that they had initially talked about, because they were thinking of doing buzzworthy Hound, and I think it was buzzworthy one of the creature cars that transform into Suburbans and Dark of the Moon, right? Those, I can't remember if it was Crankcase, which one it was out of the 3. I think there was 3 of them, right? And then they were revealed the last one that was going to be in the Buzzworthy line, but they never ended up making it in the Buzzworthy line. But this is where I have an issue with this pack. Why do we have to restrict the Earth Mode Hound, the Hound that everybody wants, to a 5-pack? That kind of annoys me. Now, I understand that these 5 figures in general were hard to come by, but come on, guys, you couldn't have given it to us in, like, Studio Series 86 or even Legacy United as just a standalone figure. I wouldn't be surprised if they did release it eventually in the future, but man, it really sucks that this is the current only way to get this, is to shell out 100 or so bucks, especially if you didn't care for the other figures. This is a real, meh, right? It just feels really bad, but it's the only way to get it, and I personally really wanted it, and so now that I have it, let's talk about it. So this Hound, obviously, between this and the Siege Hound, when I said at the beginning, this absolutely isn't Earth. That wasn't Earthrise Hound. That was Siege Hound. My apologies. I might have put text on screen. This is so much better. It's way more accurate to the original. As you can see, the nice blue painted windshield. You do have the star here. This is different. The Autobot logo is also different here. The whole front section is completely different. Very accurate. The nice light green color for the wheels, for the winch, for the tires is the light gray color. You do get the nice light green here for the seats. You do get the accurate shoulder cannon as well as his accurate blaster. The only issue I have with this mold is really just this section here. I really wish there was like a little panel that folded out that would allow you to cover this up, but at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. Is this the best Willys looking Jeep? No, because it doesn't even have painted taillights or anything like that. But at the end of the day, this is way more accurate, and even from the front, this looks fantastic. From the side, it looks good. From the back, that's where I have issues with it. There's just nothing back here. Other than that, though, I do think that this is a really solid mold, and this is still the more accurate of the two. And so, to show you that accuracy difference, we're going to compare this one versus the Siege one. So here's this one, and here we have the Siege one. As you can see, much darker green. The molding is completely different, especially on the front here. You can see that is completely different. The star is in a different place. Autobot logo is in a different place. This entire front bumper section is different. The fenders are different. The tires are even different, and even the thickness of them. You can see these are thicker on the Siege one. The color is much darker on this one. There's a lot more silver and gray on this one. This one has the light green. This has a blue painted windshield. This is a transparent one here. That's transparent, like a regular sort of, I guess, like regular color transparent plastic, just like what you would call like clear, right? And as you can see, there's a difference here. I do prefer this because it does cover up the hole. And the only difference in the transformation, because I know I'm not going to show the transformation, But the only difference with the transformation is that for this one, you just have to fold this up. This one, there's nothing to fold. It's much easier to transform in that respect. But everything else about the transformation between these two is exactly the same, except for when you get to this part, which is just you just have to fold this up, and there's nothing to fold up on the new Stand United one. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take these guys in their vehicle modes and into their robot modes. Alrighty, folks, here we have both of the Hounds in their robot modes, and I gotta say, when it comes obviously to looking at the robot modes, clearly the new one is just infinitely better. We can all see that already. It's just infinitely better when it comes to the looks of the original cartoon. Now, this is a great reimagining, and this is not a bad figure by any stretch of the imagination. It was a fantastic stand-in, but clearly this is the one I'm going to use for my display, guys. This is Hound. This is the Hound I knew. This is the Hound I watched when I was a little kid, when I got that Season 2 DVD box set from my cousin. This is the original Hound. This is the Hound that I knew of when I was a kid, and I'm really, really happy to finally have them. I mean, you can see the stars are different. There's no stars there. The grays instead of this dark black color. You can see the light green instead of the gray. You can also see the lighter green in general. This is obviously not accurate. You do have the shoulder cannon and the gun, but they're not accurate. This is obviously accurate. The only major issue I have when you're looking at when you look at this Hound is that when you plug this in, this is a bit loose. I wish it was a bit tighter. It feels really loose. Like, it doesn't fall out loose like that, but it still, just does feel looser. You can also see the yellow is different here instead of this bronze color. Taking a look at the backpacks, they're obviously different. This still is not bad at all, but this obviously is much cleaner because you don't have any of this. But again, the caveat is that your vehicle mode is a little worse when it comes to that little hole there. But overall, this is a fantastic version of Hound, and this is the Hound that I think everybody should want. This is the Hound, which irks me more why they had to relegate it to a 5-pack. Really wish it was a standalone release, but I do understand what Hasbro was thinking. But at the same time, part of me, I don't like to say this, but part of me thinks it's a money grab. I don't really like saying that, but still, I will say the figures are improvements, and we'll go over that in the conclusion section when I talk about this. But overall, really solid stuff. So we're going to set this Hound off to the side. Articulation, you do get a full 360 with a ball joint, so you can look up and down, but it's really tough because Hound is a square face, so it's really, really hard to look up and down. So there's really no up and down, although it is technically possible. This obviously swivels. You do have a full 360 here. Upper bicep rotation. You do have rotation here at the, you have an elbow joint here, a 90 degrees. You do have full wrist articulation, which is really, really nice. You also do get full waist articulation. You do, which reminds me, you do have this nice yellow detail in comparison to this one, where they're completely different molds there. You also do get forward. You get back. You get 90 degrees at the knee, upper thigh rotation, and then you do get some nice ankle rocker pivot, wild ankle rocker pivot, actually. All these figures have fantastic articulation. I think one thing I forgot to mention, I believe that also Trailbreaker has full wrist articulation as well. That's one thing I did forget to mention, so I apologize for that. But yeah, looking at these two, again, this is clearly the better figure. In my opinion, the joint quality is also relatively the same. I'll say it's not necessarily an improvement between these two. They're pretty much the same. So yeah, overall, this is, in my opinion, the better Hound because it's more accurate. But again, this is not a bad figure by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't fault you for having either in your collection. Alrighty, folks, so for my final concluding thoughts on the Transformers Legacy United Generation Selects Stand United Autobot 5-pack, this is a really, really solid pack, especially for those of you who were not able to get any of these figures or very few of them, one or two of them, and you really needed the full set of them to complete your collections and displays just like me. Well, just to complete, not that I wasn't able to get the originals, but you get what I'm saying. This is really solid. Now, what I'm going to say, I might be taking shots at the original at the recent pack I reviewed for the Nemesis Bridge. But what I like about this pack is that it does what it sets out to do. It makes cartoon accurate versions of the original figures that we had, even though that those figures were not bad by any respect. They were really amazing. It's just these are clearly the more cartoon accurate. And so if you're looking for that cartoon accuracy, this is the set to pick up. In addition to that, what I do love about this set is that all of the quality of these figures, when it comes to their joints and how they function, these feel equal, if not better. A good chunk of these are even better than the originals. The Nemesis Bridge set, not really the same. Shockwave was fine, Soundwave was worse, and Megatron was infinitely worse. As you saw with mine, and like I said, I'm not the only one who had those knee issues. and even some of the pegging, like it's loose pegging on that one comparison. But going through them each quick, I think Jazz and Trailbreaker are about the same. You can argue, they're functionally better than their originals, but at the same time, the looks are personal preference. Wheeljack is the only one I'm a bit on the fence about because the vehicle mode really is completely blown out of the water by the original Earthrise one in terms of the interesting detail, but it is way more cartoon accurate in this robot mode. Sunstreaker is just a complete improvement, like way better. Paint's better, functionality is better, everything about it is better. He comes with a gun. And finally, Hound. Hound is just way more accurate to the original cartoon. Joints and everything are about the same, functionality is about the same, but in terms of accuracy, Hound is much better. So overall, out of a 10, if I got to give this something out of a 10, probably going to give this an 8 or a 9, probably closer to a 9. I definitely would recommend you pick it up if you're looking for more cartoon accurate versions. Would also recommend picking it up if you never got these figures. What I will say is if you have some of the originals and you're still skeptical about it, I don't blame you if you keep your figures and don't decide to spend the money on this, because this is pretty expensive, but at the very least you are getting each of these for about retail. Here in the US it's about, $20 bucks a deluxe. You're getting this set for 5 figures for about 110, maybe 120 or so after shipping, and so I think that that's much more reasonable than paying $40 or $50 maybe for some of these individual figures on the aftermarket. If that's what they're going for, I'd have to do some research on that, but I assume that that's probably around where most of these figures are hovering around, maybe even more than that, maybe a little bit less, but regardless, I think it's better than buying each individual one on the aftermarket, especially when each of these is much more cartoon accurate in comparison to the originals. But again, like I said, some of that's personal preference, but I still think that this is a fantastic pack to pick up. So if you are looking for it, I will leave links. I did pick mine up on the Big Bad Toy Store, so leave a link in the description to that. Also leave links in the description to Hasbro Pulse as well as Amazon to see if those have it. Maybe TF Source as well to see if they also have it as well. I'll see if I can leave a link for that. But other than that, yeah, I think that's about it. So I thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends and also follow me in the socials. Those will be linked down in the description below. And with that, guys, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this review, and I will catch you on the next one. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.